Good morning. It's a really beautiful sunny Sunday morning. I'm doing my laundry like I normally do on weekends. It's daylight savings, so my body is all confused. My body's like, it's not 10 o'clock in the morning right now, but it is. It's actually, well, my body thinks it's like 9. I woke up and just, bruh. Anyways, Democrats, progressives, do not care about the working class. There may have been a point in history where they did, but modern day America, circa 2025, that's where we're at if you're watching this, the progressives actually kind of despise the working class. And I have theories as to why that is, and I'm gonna try to thread all of this together, but bear with me. Congress or the Senate, whatever, some government organization introduced legislation to remove taxes on tips, overtime, and Social Security payments. All three of those directly impact in a beneficial manner the working class. What did the Democrats and progressives do? They all voted no on that legislation. Why? I think partially because, as I've said before, the left will just oppose anything and everything Donald Trump and or the conservatives want to or try to do. They're just going to obstruct everything that the conservatives and the right and the anti-communists want to do because it doesn't move us in the collectivist direction of communism, of Marxism, of socialism, of some form of collectivism, some form of the intelligentsia filling these government roles and creating this utopian society. And that is often why there is such a hatred of the intellectual class. And I think that hatred has been growing as the intellectual class has been exposed over the last several decades. So there used to be a point where the progressives and the left, right, actually cared about the working class. Maybe. However, as time progressed and the ideas of collectivism showed us that they are quite very awful, the working class people decided, okay, yeah, we're looking at history, we're looking at reality. Collectivism doesn't work. What works is just giving us the freedom to produce. But the intellectual class, as Murray Rothbard in The Anatomy of the State says, they are not guaranteed an adequate living in the private sector as a result of them not having actual skills. It's great to be able to think. Critical thinking is phenomenal. But what does it produce? Produce to exchange. It can produce innovation and revolutionary technology, but it's not a guarantee. And so the intellectual class has learned that their greatest guarantee of power and resources comes from the state, comes from bureaucracy, from administration. So they justify the existence of the state and bureaucracy and administration to justify their own extraction of wealth and value from the working class. And the working class has grown wise to this. And so the tension between the intellectual class and the working class has come to a head. And now everybody knows the game. So that's why now the intellectual class hates the working class. And why the working class hates the intellectual class. Because the intelligentsia is just trying to exploit the working class. That is why there is so much anti-intellectual, anti-establishment sentiment and rhetoric that exists and is fueling things like Donald Trump's popularity. I'm going to pause. And you'll notice within the left, that's why there's been a significant shift away from talking about working class issues to marginalized communities issues, because they know the working class is no longer on their side, but they still need a victim group to emotionally manipulate the broader population. And that's what all of this collectivist, Marxist, neo-Marxist rhetoric is designed to do. The original victim group or marginalized group used to be the working class. And there was good, significant reason to advocate for them. But as the working class moved away from the left, for good reason in my opinion, the left said, oh no, we're losing our capital in the form of our victim capital, which creates the guilt and the shame that they use to try to coerce people into supporting them, their policies, and their programs. It's very much a manipulative tactic. And I want to speak about like my own experience as a working class young man for a minute. I tried like 2 years ago or a few years ago to get on what they call SNAP. It's food stamps. Do you know what the threshold for income is? Like how much money you make before they say, no, you don't qualify for food stamps? In Washington State, like 2 years ago, if you made more than, it was like $1,300 and $1,350. If you made more than that in a month, you did not qualify for food stamps. That's literally less than a lot of people's rent. Or like me, I was paying like $1,000 a month in rent. That's all my rent, right? So if I make more than $1,300, I don't get any benefits from the government. And that's not the only thing. There just aren't any programs for people like me who are not homeowners, are not landowners, but also aren't totally destitute and totally reliant on the government. And that's because that's what they want. They want all the people who cannot quite get to land ownership. They want us to be so angry that we think the government should be doing more. But we're smarter than that, and that's why they've failed. One more pause. Okay, I've got one more story I want to wrap up the video on. This was years ago, probably 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe even more. But when I was working at Boeing and I was making good money and I had a larger network of professional friends, we can call them, people who made good money, and who were advocates for the working class or advocates for the left, whatever. I had one particular female friend that I used to have just some of the best conversations with before things got really, really fractured. One of the conversations, though, was around sex work and how we both thought it should be legal. Absolutely. However, she's a woman. So she's going to be maybe biased on this because a majority of sex work is women. Not all of it, but a majority. Gay guys don't have the same problem that straight guys have. Man, gay guys, I won't get started, but they don't have the same problem. Anyways, okay. She thought sex work should be tax-free. She thought that women who engage in sex work shouldn't have to pay taxes because they're selling their body. Which, okay, yeah, they are selling their body. I'll agree with that. But is also not a concrete worker whose back and hips and knees and shoulders are destroyed from years of manual labor? Is he not also selling his body? Should he not also benefit from no tax on his labor? And that's the kind of shenanigans that these intellectual types come up with. Just major intellectual gymnastics to justify and emotionally appealing idea to them and their in-group. Her being a woman who supports sex work, which is more often on the left, they're just trying to justify preferential treatment for certain people and certain types of people. And that's all that the left has been doing over the last several decades. It's not about equality anymore. It is about preferential treatment for victimized groups or marginalized groups. However, within that definition of victimization and marginalization, there is so much nuance, and it's not even nuance as so much as whatever the establishment or the bureaucrats or whatever group they want to use as pawns to manipulate, as I had said earlier, they'll find the intellectual justification. It's not consistent. So when I talk about how the left is not intellectually consistent, they do not apply their reasoning consistently. That's another example. Yes, sex work should be legal. Yes, it should be. There should be no tax. You shouldn't have to pay taxes on sex work, but there shouldn't be an income tax to begin with. But the left, the intelligentsia, they need us in the working class. They need to steal our money to support their friggin' lifestyles. They are so useless. Not so, mostly useless. Anyways, I'll end the video there. Thank you very much for listening. I love you all. If you watch this, I love you.